I'm suing the defendant because he deceived me.
A house party, a strip club.
Yeah.
At 5 p.m., start getting drunk.
Oh, yeah. I call it a lituation, because it's going to be a lit situation.
My tenants, they called me indicating that water was actually coming through and it wasn't a small amount. They were mopping, they were doing everything that they could.
This was an unfortunate accident, but that's why we have insurance to cover this. If he had insurance, his insurance would pay for this.
Plaintiff Marla Brown put a down payment on a trip to California, but says her travel agent wasn't clear about costs. She's suing for $100. Defendant, Antoine Arrington, claims he was clear about his no refunds policy, so the plaintiff isn't getting her money back.
239 on the docket, Brown versus Arrington.
And welcome to both of you. Let me see what we have here. We have the plaintiff, Ms. Brown.
Yes.
And you are suing the defendant, Mr. Arrington?
Yep.
For $100 for a deposit from a trip that you never attended.
Yes. I'm suing the defendant, who I call a wannabe travel agent, for $100 because he deceived me into giving him the money and now he refuses.
How did this come about? How did he deceive you?
I met him through a friend who was his cousin.
Yes.
We met 3 years ago. We went to a Universal Circus event last October.
Yeah.
I paid the defendant to go. He had an extra ticket. Everything was a success.
Lies.
So then we went to January 31st. It's my friend's birthday. He approaches me about a group trip going to California.
About a California trip?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I said, why not? You know, it's a sunshine state. It's the summertime.
Well, Florida's a sunshine state, but they have nice weather.
Well, I call it the sunshine state anyway.
So he said, hey, we have this trip. As a travel agent, he was saying, we have this trip to California.
Right.
Would you like to come?
Right. He put us in a group chat. The next day, it was like 30+ people. Everybody was amped up. Everybody was excited to go to California.
So this is like the very beginning of February or the end of January.
Yes.
And he's explaining what this is about.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was 30+ people. Everybody was excited. Everybody was amped up to go. He then proceeded to put a video and pictures of the California house that we were going to be depositing our money for. And I have a photo as well, just to give you a little...
Oh, that's very nice. So that is the house that you would be staying at on this trip?
Right.
That house holds 30 people?
It had about a good 6 bedrooms and a lot of bathrooms.
Well, that's good with 30 people. But that's a very nice place. Okay,
Right.
Sounds good so far.
So then he proceeded to give us an itinerary of the trip. A lot of the activities were centered around the house, so I'm going to give you just the first itinerary he gave us in the group chat.
Okay, let me take a look at this, and it says, so far this is all I have on my agenda. You don't have to participate and are free to do whatever you wish in LA. A house party on the Friday, parasailing, jet skis, strip club.
Yep. It's a celebration, yeah.
The celebration apparently continues on Sunday because there's a lingerie pool house party.
Oh, yeah.
So far, you're going to a strip club and you're going to a lingerie house party.
Celebration.
Okay.
It's my 25th birthday. So,
happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
So it's the 25th. I call it a lituation because it's going to be a lit situation. So, right. So 25th, right? You see, you got the itinerary. You see strip clubs, parties. We going crazy. I got a spot for you too, as you see now. So if you want to come and slide through.
Still stuck on the lituation?
Look, it's a lituation. But
And how much did he say you had to pay?
$175, and he also stated
Well, okay, what was the $175 for?
to live in the house.
But the transportation, flying there, you would take care on your...
I knew I had to pay for the flight, but I didn't know about the transportation because he never mentioned to us that we needed our own transportation.
Now, when was your $100 due?
Around March 7th or March 11th.
All right, so a month and a half later.
Yeah. So I have both deposits that I gave to him.
What made you decide not to go?
The transportation. Because I don't know the Uber and Lyft prices in California. I don't know their rental prices in California. I've never been to California, so it wasn't until after I submitted both deposits that he then said that we needed our own transportation. After the 2 deposits, he sent a second itinerary, and it was longer than the list of 10 commandments, like literally.
That means it had more than 10 items.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, you have the first itinerary, so I'm going to send
Unless
you.
they shorten the 10 commandments, I'm thinking, okay, so these extra activities,
Right.
which are voluntary, you don't have to do it.
Right.
The skydiving, at 5 p.m., start getting drunk.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you...
That's an activity.
8 p.m.,
While we waiting.
masquerade. By the way, there's
So-
going to be a sign-up list at the back of the courthourhouse. If
Look, Jerry, you
anyone
can
wants
come
to
too,
get
y'all.
Now, as you can see, the first itinerary, it doesn't have get a rental. So that's when I messaged the defendant, asking him if the rental he got, maybe it was a van, maybe it'll fit all people. I asked him, would his transportation fit all people? He said no.
Your $100 wasn't due until March
March,
7th.
right.
Okay. During those 5-6 weeks, why didn't you ask these questions before you put the deposit down?
That's all I gave you a background story of us because I felt like he was trustworthy enough. So I didn't ask a lot of questions about the trip.
Okay.
And I even stated that it was my fault for trusting his judgment.
From your point of view, let's say he's the most honest person in the world. If you're going to take a trip and you're going to require to put down a deposit, one of the very first questions, because you're a grown-up, one of the questions you would ask is, how do we get around? How much is this going to cost? What about the individual activities? Do we pay for these individual activities?
Well-
I mean, these are questions that you would ask before you decide to put down a deposit to go
Right.
on the trip.
I feel like if he knew how much that the trip needed, he should have stated that it was going to cost this amount of dollars.
Okay.
He didn't state that. He literally made it seem like all he had to do was pay for the housing deposit. And since the itinerary is pretty much centered around the house, you don't really have to go to the events. You can just, because barbecue, pool
All right,
party, that's
okay.
all in the house.
You thought if there were going to be other expenses, he would have told you that.
Right.
Go ahead.
I just find that just crazy real quick, though, because I'm just thinking, like, a cruise ship don't tell you, hey, it's going to cost us $8 billion for the whole cruise. So, just throwing it out there, like, I should not tell everybody how much everything cost me. It should just tell you how much you would have to pay. But let me tell you about this trip.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's
first
a
off, this is
point. That's a point. You just said you should tell them how much they're going to have to pay.
Right. And I told them as far as how much they would have had to pay for the house. All right, so this mansion that she was talking to you about. So it's a 7-bedroom mansion, 5 bathroom. We in LA, got a pool, hot tub, jacuzzi. It's 2 kitchens, 2 dining rooms.
I believe all of what you're telling me.
It's lovely.
Yes, but isn't she entitled to know, look, if you go on this trip, before she puts the deposit down,
Right.
these are the activities that will be optional. Understand that this is what this costs, this is what this costs. You're organizing it.
Right.
So if you're organizing it, you have to let people know what they're going to be spending.
I agree.
Right. But
I'm amazed that you agree with that.
I mean, but the point is, that's why I said these are the stuff that I'm doing. These people didn't have to do any of this.
I
You could have
understand.
stayed and sat at that house and enjoyed all the luxury of the house.
But how
which-
about telling them if they do those activities, this is what it's going to cost? You don't want people to go on the trip and then everyone is sniping at you because, hey, you didn't tell me I have to pay for this. What am I paying? This is crazy.
So I let people know that that they can drop out the activities at any time. Like, they can drop out a trip. The moment I find something I want to do, okay, boom, I can do this, I can do that. I gave everybody full disclosure. I let them know every single thing that I was planning. When something got canceled, I let them know, boom, I can't do that no more. I let them know that, boom, we about to go parasailing. Like, we were supposed to go jet skiing, can't do jet skiing anymore, so that's why we going skydiving and stuff like that.
Not before you took the deposit.
Oh, I let them know this in February.
This is important. It's important to the case. You let them know what activities they could voluntarily decide to do and around what they would cost before March 7th.
Yes, I let them know.
He didn't, Your Honor.
You had 4 to 5 weeks prior to sending him the $100
Right.
to find out all these questions, which are very legitimate. If you don't
So-
have evidence that you tried to find out from him what are these activities and what do they cost, if you didn't ask those questions, which you had every right to find out, then you assumed the risk. You, as you said, I trusted him. You don't get a deposit back because you decide not to go on the trip.
He sent the first itinerary.
Yes.
Like I said, it was in my budget, so that's why I sent the money. It wasn't just like off of a whim. he sent an itinerary. The second itinerary, then he put get a rental. That wasn't in the first itinerary. That's what I'm trying to say.
But the point is, you had 5 weeks to find out all these questions. Forget that it's him. If you go to a travel agency, find out ahead of time.
But a
That's a
travel
good
agency
lesson.
will
Based
give
on
you
that,
all
I have to
the-
dismiss the case.
I don't have nothing to say, honestly. Like, it is what it is.
It's just like going into a store and they say no refunds on the sign. What you gonna do? You either gonna keep what you got, or you gonna have to go and try to get that in-store credit. I could have gave her in-store credit on the next trip, but no, she chose to. So, look.
Plaintiff George Garner claims the defendant's broken washing machine flooded his rental property. Defendant, Megan Silver, says it was an accident, and he just wants her to pay for new
Nothing but the
floors.
truth.
I do.
I do.
This is case number 170 on the docket, Garner versus Silver.
Okay, and hello to both of you. We have here the plaintiff, Mr. Garner. You are suing the defendant, Ms. Silver, for $2,942 for water damage repairs. Tell me about that.
Your Honor, on March 3rd, 2019,
Yep.
I had water damage that actually sustained from Ms. Silver's unit. We both mutually own the units and we rent them out.
Yes.
So on that night, water started pouring through the wall. My tenants occupied the unit and they called me indicating that water was actually coming through, and it wasn't a small amount. They were mopping, they were doing everything that they could. It was like drinking water from a fire hose. It was simply impossible for them to be able to maintain the amount of water.
Is this on the ground floor?
It is a 2-story unit with an adjoining wall between the 2 units, just so you
Okay.
can understand that piece of it. I actually have a layout of the
Yeah,
unit
if I
you would
could
like
see that, that would be helpful.
That shows actually an over and under. So the right side is the ground floor, and then the left side is the upstairs. So that gives you the perspective of that it is a 2-story unit. So water was coming through the adjoining wall, where there is a washing machine on the 2nd floor of all units. So when water started pouring through, it wasn't just pouring through just a wall on the ground floor. It was going through the floor, which is the ceiling of the bottom floor.
Yes.
Then going all the way down, traveling down that wall, and then penetrating through our wall as well. Mind you, there's also another unit on the other side of Unit 103 that Ms. Silver owns that also sustained water damage as well. I'm just doing my piece for 102. So the water was so great and it ran for such a long period of time that it was actually coming out the front door.
Your Honor, I'm not responsible for paying for his upgrades to his condo unit. Who knows how long that his flooring has been in disrepair. I'm not denying that there was water. There was water, but I'm not responsible for paying for an accident. If he's not able to establish negligence, I don't have to pay for it. I'm insured so that I don't have to come out of pocket for repairs like this.
But if the damage is caused by something on your property, whether you did something awful or not, but if the broken washing machine on your property causes damage to the neighbor, you're responsible for that. Now, for your damage, if you're insured, maybe that takes care of it. But he shouldn't have to pay for damage caused by your property.
Your Honor, I don't think he's been able to establish that the damage to his flooring was caused by my property. As he said, it's a rental unit. He had tenants in it.
Your Honor.
I shouldn't be responsible for the replacement costs
Well, let's
for
see,
better flooring.
Your
Okay,
Honor,
well-
I have evidence that I'd like to introduce showing photos of before my tenants moved in, showing the condition of the floor and what that looked like prior.
Okay.
I also have receipts that I would like to submit to the court for water remediation in order to be able to stop the water, in order to prevent mold growth.
So the picture
as well.
you're showing here is the picture of the floor in the unit that you own before the water damage.
Yes, Your Honor. As a responsible landlord, I take photos of everything for purposes of deposits and things like that to find out, did my tenant cause damage, which is exactly what Ms. Silver is arguing.
Okay.
I took
Do
photos
you
of
have
that.
a
That is-
picture of the damage after the?
Yes, Your Honor.
after
I
the
have 2
leak?
photos. This is actually showing water damage to the floor. There's actually 4 that I would like to introduce to the court.
You may.
One on the left was the initial piece where water was starting to come through, and then as you can see on the photo on the right, that's actually standing water, and you can see the level of the water. It wasn't just a minor amount. My argument is the negligence of the water running for such a long period of time that this is preventable.
The tenants had left to go out to dinner at a restaurant that's within a 3-minute drive. They had been doing laundry all day long. The washer had never caused issues before. The washer was maintained and everything was in working order. It was being used the way it's supposed to be, and the tenants acted completely reasonably in the situation.
But then what caused this flood?
The washer did malfunction and overflow, but that's nothing that they could have anticipated. It's not due to some act or omission of the tenants.
Your Honor, may I interrupt for just a moment? I'm a store manager for a home improvement retailer. I've been doing it for 12 years.
Yes.
My father was a tool and die maker. When something broke, we made another tool. So just to give you an idea what my level of comprehension is of repair and things like that. I know it's not light reading material to go to the restroom and read a manual for how to operate a washing machine, but in my industry, it actually says that there are certain maintenance things that should be done, including you cannot leave a washing machine unattended, mostly for children, but also in the event of any kind of accident. Same reason why when you go to a gas station, you pump gas, it also indicates do not leave it unattended in the event that the kill switch doesn't start spewing water over. So I believe her tenants were actually liable in this case because they did leave it unattended and it flowed for so long.
Your Honor, if I may, this was an unfortunate accident, but that's why we have insurance to cover this. If he had insurance, his insurance would pay for this. I shouldn't have to come out of my pocket because he chose not to insure his property.
If he was responsible for something, then it is up to him whether he had insurance or not, and if he didn't take insurance, he's going to pay for it because he caused the problem that he doesn't have insurance for, so it has to be out of pocket. But he didn't cause this. His place got flooded because something that happened on your property. Now, you may turn around and say, maybe the tenants were irresponsible for letting it stay there so much. That's an action that you can take. But I don't find any reason why you shouldn't be held responsible. If I could see some estimate on what the damage
Yes, Your Honor.
was.
The first receipt is the water remediation that you'll see. The second receipt is for material. And then the third receipt, I outlined exactly how the labor scope was actually quoted. That was a very extensive amount of work.
So what are you suing for?
I am suing for $2,942. Receipt one is $1,532. That's the material for the flooring.
Got it.
$361 was the water remediation, and then the labor piece of it is $1,049.
He contacted my insurance company and they denied his claim because I'm not responsible for this.
You're the owner of that property. The leak was not an act of God. You own the property. I think these costs are reasonable. I find for the plaintiff in the sum of $2,942.
Remain at the podium.
Any landowner or landlord is actually responsible for what their tenants do, and this is a great case where you can actually see that it didn't fall in her court, that it was actually in my favor, so I'm pleased at how this turned out.
As a landlord, you should buy properties next to people who insure themselves.
Thanks for watching. Now please approach the bench. The way I look at it, you have two options here. Option A, watch more Judge Jerry. Option B, watch more Jerry Springer. The choice is yours. Now get out of my courtroom. You have more clips to watch. And don't forget to subscribe.